Uh-oh, looks like somebody's burning Granny's furniture in the backyard. So, what has yours truly gotten himself into this time? How can I explain this? Well, I am in the southwest of Germany. I have been here only a couple of times before, and this is a property with an old house on it that my girlfriend inherited last year when her father had unexpectedly passed away. Now, she didn't really want this house, but that's the way it goes. And it's basically a very ungrateful inheritance because it comes with a lot of issues. It's a big house and it used to be, I guess, kind of expensive back in the day, but now it's really a piece of work. See, this part of the house here, where I think two families would find enough place to live, was built in the 1920s. This part of the building that we're looking at and that we're actually standing on is part of an extension of that house that was added in the 1980s by her father, actually. So beneath us is a garage with an old, no longer running Mercedes in it, of course. It's always the same with these houses. If you've been with the channel for a while, you know what I'm talking about. And so what they did is to put a bunch of tiles onto the steel and concrete ceiling of that garage. And a true move of genius, they didn't add a roof on top of it. At least not a permanent one. So what happened here is that water started to pile up on these tiles, as it still does today here on the concrete. Then ivy started to grow next to the garage. You can see the ivy over there. And the roof, the roots of the ivy started to spread under the tiles. And they just cracked everything open. I could just remove the tiles by hand with no force whatsoever. I threw them down there. You can see them, right? So what I'm trying to do here is just to help out where I can. So I had the idea to put up some temporary roofing on this balcony and onto another one that you'll see in just a minute. So what I did here is to basically just buy a 4x7 meter tarp, and then I bought some wood in the home improvement store. You know, I'm putting an inclination into this, and I hope that the water will flow off here so that the water will at least no longer pile up on the surface. Because the ceiling itself already has some rather severe damage. If you go down into the garage, you can see mold, and I'm not saying that the ceiling is disintegrating already, but the paint is coming off and the render is coming off. And speaking of render coming off, I don't know if you can see that over there. That is render that came off this wall. Let me show you where that came from. This being the building from the 1920s, and this here is the extension that they added in the 1980s. So basically the garage beneath us, a basement room beneath us, a bathroom, another bathroom, and on top of that another balcony. And you can see over there another tarp and another temporary roof that I built a couple of weeks ago, and we'll have a look at that in just a minute. Over there you can see a bunch of render missing, and well, I removed that from the walls, but it came off almost without any effort. So let's go up there and take a look at some other work that I did a couple of weeks ago. Ouch, I just hit my head. And well, this maybe this is interesting for you guys. If you've never seen German houses, let's see if we can get some light in here. Unfortunately not. You can already tell it's really not very stylish. In the 80s, everything, as it seems here in Germany, was about brown colors. So everything in this house is brown. The tapestry, the floors, everything that's made from wood, of course. We also have wooden staircase. Then light switches, brown, of course. And we're going up basically into the attic, but this is an attic that was obviously used for living rooms. And here we are on the upper balcony, and this is something that I built about 6 weeks ago. And here again, let's take a look at what has been going on here for decades. Same type of tiling that we saw downstairs. But this time, my girlfriend's father started to just put I think this is latex paint onto the tiles in order to waterproof this entire surface. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, except for the original roof that had proper drains, this entire balcony here doesn't have any drains other than this teeny tiny hole in the ground here. And of course this also would have been stuck with all kinds of stuff like old leaves flying around and so on, because nobody obviously really cared about it. So what happened here is that the water started to pile up on the ceiling, seeping down through the ceiling, and at least in this very spot here, this steel and concrete ceiling here turned into a mush that feels more like soil than concrete. So I first came here a couple of months ago, and I could see that my girlfriend was in a really desperate situation. She wants to sell this house. She doesn't want to have this inheritance really, but has to take care of it. But looking for a buyer while a house keeps deteriorating, I think is a very bad situation. So I thought, okay, so how can I help? How can I step up to the plate? And I drove to the home improvement store. We bought, well, maybe $300-400 so worth of materials, not from my money of course, from the inheritance. And I started to put a temporary roof on here. And the way I did this is to first add this roof here so that you could step out onto the balcony and work in the shade of it, because it was really sunny at that time. And then I had the idea to use this kind of tarp here, which is actually for ponds, for garden ponds. And I wanted to span that over the entire area of this balcony and then some. But it wasn't large enough, so I had to add some of this rather crappy roofing tar here. And well, what can I say? It's been 6 weeks, it's pouring like hell, and at least it's dry under here. It has been raining for days, but at least right now I can't really see any water on the ground anymore, except for apparently holes in the original drain that I kind of patched up with some MS polymer adhesive, which has the advantage that it actually even hardens underwater, even though it takes longer than usual. But other than that, I don't really have any leaks. I had a little one over here, but I just found the reason why and put in some more MS polymer. So that seems to have stopped. What I did over here is to basically block the path from the original drain into that hole by again just I took the bottom out of an old aluminum pan. I cut that out with an angle grinder, then bent that and glued that in there with MS polymer. I took this drain pipe here, added that to the side, and now the water is pouring down with about 1.5 meters distance from the wall. So this is all just about keeping this part of the building dry until there will be either a buyer or maybe a decision about proper restoration of the house, and also just giving it a chance to at least dry while the summer allows for that. Because it just feels wrong to sit on a property that is still basically filled with stuff that you have to get rid of, like old furniture and so on, and that's work that can go on for years if you're not really effective at it. So during that time, it's all about stopping further damage and doing damage control, and that's what I've been trying to help with here. And of course I made some mistakes. Now I knew that there would be a chance of water piling up at the bottom of this inclined roof here, and that did happen, even though I actually tried to prevent it. But as far as I can tell, it only happens mainly on this roofing tar here, which is really something I think you should only put that onto a proper surface, you know, have some OSB, have some panels that you can install it on, not having it hang down like this. The other material here really does a good job so far, but I maybe would have done a few things a little differently if I would do it again. For example, I would try to find something like I'm doing now on the lower balcony that is one piece, so that you don't have these seams here, because that's always where you will get into problems. And well, I know that some of you are probably thinking that I shouldn't put too much work into something that isn't even mine, and that I should pay attention not to get, taken advantage of. And I'm aware of that, but I'm also someone who just wants to help, especially if someone I really like is in trouble. So I think it's always about making everything a lesson and gain at least in knowledge and experience, or maybe in hardiness, in case there isn't any money for you in there, or any other more concrete way of gaining anything. So a bunch of lessons that I have learned here are, for example, if you want to build a balcony, put a goddamn roof on it.